All right, so get ready, because today we're diving deep into the world of Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to have you here to help me break it all down.
Yeah, Andrew Luck, it's such a fascinating story.
Yeah, so for everyone listening, we're going way beyond the typical, sports highlights reel. You were kind enough to send over and try to piece together, a picture of who this guy really is.
I think we have a lot of material to work with.
We really do, and it's fascinating. So much more than just football.
Absolutely.
International childhood, architectural design, a flip phone.
Yeah, really defies expectations in a lot of ways.
I mean, how many quarterbacks do you know that use a flip phone?
Not too many in this day and age.
I mean, that's got to be the story there.
Yeah, definitely intriguing.
So yeah, this is going to be fun.
Looking forward to it.
Let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Andrew was born in Washington, D.C., but his early years were anything but ordinary.
Right from the start, his life was shaped by football.
Well, yeah, with a dad like Oliver Luck. I mean, what else would you expect?
It's in the genes.
Right. His dad, Oliver Luck, was an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
And then he transitioned into the administration side of things.
Went from the field to the front office.
And that move actually took the family overseas.
Yeah, that's a big change for a young kid.
Huge. So
And
Andrew actually spent a big chunk of his childhood living in London and Frankfurt.
a very international upbringing.
I mean, talk about a global perspective.
Definitely not your average childhood.
And I bet that had a huge impact on it.
Oh, absolutely. It shaped his worldview in a lot of ways. You can see it in his love for soccer.
Which isn't always the top sport for kids who grew up, immersed in American football.
It's true, but makes sense considering he spent those formative years in Europe.
Right. And he's even a big supporter of American players in, the Premier League.
Yeah, he's followed the careers of guys like Christian Pulisic and Tyler Adams.
Wow. Okay, so a true global sports fan.
Definitely well-rounded in his interests.
But it wasn't just Andrew, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
athleticism, it runs in the family.
Oh yeah, the entire Luck family is full of athletes. His mom, Kathy, played sports in college,
Oh, wow.
and his siblings, all athletes at some pretty impressive universities.
Where are we talking?
Stanford and Yale?
Wow, talk about a family full of talent.
They definitely had success on and off the field.
All right, so back to Andrew. So he may have loved soccer,
Mm-hmm.
but when it came to high school, it was all about football. At Stratford High School in Houston.
Yeah, he really made a name for himself there.
I mean, this guy was co-valedictorian of his class.
Brains and brawn.
And a star quarterback. I mean, those college scouts must have been all over him.
Oh yeah, he was highly sought after, for sure.
But what's interesting?
What's that?
Instead of going to a big-name football school,
Right.
he chose Stanford.
Stanford, interesting choice.
Yeah, and I know that decision raised some eyebrows at the time.
I bet it did. People probably thought he was limiting his potential.
But looking back, I mean, it's clear that Stanford was the perfect place for him
It was the right fit for him academically and athletically.
to grow both on and off the field.
They have a great program.
Yeah, and that's where things at Stanford get really interesting.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So he becomes the starting quarterback
Okay.
his freshman year,
Freshman year, that's pretty rare.
which hadn't happened at Stanford since 1996.
Wow. That's almost unheard of, especially at a school like Stanford.
You know, right? Talk about making a statement.
He must have had incredible talent to earn that spot right out of the gate.
He did, and it wasn't just about talent. It was about his leadership, too.
Because he led Stanford to these, upset victories
Against.
over top-ranked Oregon and USC in his very first season.
In his first season.
Freshman year, unbelievable.
I mean, this wasn't just talent, it was leadership on full display.
Yeah, he had that it factor that you can't teach.
And remember, this was back when Stanford wasn't really considered a football powerhouse.
Right. They were good, but not quite at the top tier yet.
So his arrival really changed the entire trajectory of the program.
He elevated the whole team's performance.
He wasn't just winning games, he was inspiring this whole winning culture.
He was a game changer.
All right, so picture this. After his sophomore year, he was projected to be the #1 pick
Okay, the top prospect.
in the NFL draft.
Most players would jump at that chance.
Right, I mean, who wouldn't want to go pro that early?
Instant fame and fortune.
But what did Andrew do?
What did he do?
He decided to stay at Stanford to finish his degree.
Really? He turned down the NFL.
Yep, he chose to prioritize his education over going pro.
That's a bold move, especially for someone with that level of talent.
Yeah, and that decision really speaks volumes about his character.
It shows he wasn't just focused on football, he valued his education.
He actually said, and I'm quoting here,
Okay.
"I came to Stanford to get an education and I'm going to finish what I started.
Wow, that's dedication.
And it wasn't just lip service. Like, during his junior year, he continued to break records.
What kind of records are we talking about?
Like setting new marks for touchdowns.
Right.
And total offense at Stanford.
Impressive.
He even surpassed John Elway's career touchdown record.
John Elway, that's a huge name in football.
I know, right? Breaking that record at Stanford is no small feat.
It really solidified his place in Stanford history.
It showed he was like a quarterback capable of achieving greatness on a legendary scale.
He was destined for greatness.
And for 2 years straight, he was runner-up for the Heisman Trophy.
The Heisman, that's the most prestigious award in college football.
Exactly. An award given to, like, the most outstanding player in college football.
So close 2 years in a row.
I know. And that should give you an idea of just how dominant he was in college.
Being a runner-up for 2 years in a row is actually a huge accomplishment.
How so?
Well, the Heisman almost never goes to the same player twice, even if they deserve it.
So he was basically considered the best player in college football for 2 years running.
Pretty much, yeah. And on top of that, he won a ton of other awards, too.
Like what?
Things like the Maxwell Award and the Walter Camp Award.
And those are...
They both recognize the best all-around player in college football.
So basically, he swept the awards circuit.
He cleaned up, pretty much. But his legacy at Stanford goes way beyond individual trophies.
Yeah, that's what I find so fascinating.
What's that?
Okay, so before Andrew Luck arrived, Stanford had never won more than 10 games in a season.
Okay, so they were good.
They were good, but not dominant.
Gotcha.
With him leading the team, they earned back-to-back BCS bowl berths.
Bowl games, that's a big deal.
I mean, we're talking appearances in some of like the most prestigious college football games.
He put Stanford football on the map.
He wasn't just a player on the team, he was like the architect of their success.
He was a transformative figure for Stanford football.
And to honor his contributions,
Yeah.
they actually created the Andrew Luck Director of Offense position.
Wow, that's a pretty unique way to recognize his impact.
It's not just a symbolic gesture, it shows how deeply he impacted like the program's identity.
It's a testament to his lasting legacy.
All right, so by the time the 2012 NFL draft rolled around,
Okay, here we go, the big leagues.
everyone knew
No.
Andrew Luck was going to be like the top pick.
It wasn't a question of if, but where he would end up.
And that's when things got a little crazy
How so?
with the whole Suck for Luck campaign.
Oh, yeah, that was a wild time in the NFL.
Can you explain what that was all about for those who might not remember?
So basically, teams were intentionally losing games.
Tanking.
Yeah, tanking to increase their chances of getting the first pick in the draft.
And why?
Also, they could snag Andrew Luck.
They were willing to sacrifice a whole season just for a chance to draft him.
It was a controversial strategy, to say the least.
So who ended up with the golden ticket?
Well, the Indianapolis Colts ended up securing the first pick.
And unsurprisingly, they chose Andrew Luck.
It was a match made in football heaven.
It's almost poetic, right? Considering the Colts' history with another legendary Stanford quarterback,
John Elway?
John Elway.
It's a fascinating parallel.
It really is.
But unlike Elway, who was drafted by the Colts but refused to play for them,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Andrew Luck embraced the opportunity in Indianapolis.
He was ready to make his mark.
He hit the ground running.
And he did.
What'd he do?
In his rookie season,
Yeah.
he shattered the record for most passing yards by a rookie.
Rookie records are meant to be broken, but that's a big one.
And get this, he led the Colts to the playoffs.
To the playoffs.
After they had this like dismal 2-14 record the previous year.
Wow, what a turnaround.
Talk about instant impact.
He was the real deal.
That rookie season was like a masterclass in quarterbacking.
He didn't just break records, he led a struggling team to a level of success nobody thought possible.
And they actually had to send his jersey from that record-breaking game
Where'd it go?
to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame, that's incredible.
Talk about instant legend status.
I mean, he was living up to all the hype.
But his success wasn't like a fluke, right?
Oh no, this was just the beginning.
Over the next few years, he earned Pro Bowl selections in 3 of his first 4 seasons.
3 Pro Bowls in 4 seasons, that's consistency at the highest level.
And in 2014, he led the NFL in passing touchdowns.
He was at the top of his game.
He was clearly one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league.
He was in the conversation for MVP every year.
And it seemed like he was just getting started.
Right, he had so much potential.
But, as we know, things took an unexpected turn.
Yeah, injuries are a part of the game, unfortunately.
And those injuries really started to take their toll on him.
It's tough to watch any athlete struggle with injuries.
Especially a player of Andrew Luck's caliber.
It's heartbreaking to see their potential limited by physical setbacks.
He missed games here and there.
Yeah, trying to play through the pain.
But then in 2017, he had to sit out the entire season.
A whole season?
Due to shoulder problems.
That's a major setback.
It was. But no one could have predicted what would happen next.
What happened?
Everyone was hoping for a comeback.
A triumphant return.
But what we got was something far more profound.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What happened?
So in 2018,
Yeah.
he did make a remarkable comeback.
He came back.
He was setting career highs in completions,
Wow.
attempts, and yards.
He was on fire.
He even led the Colts back to the playoffs.
So the comeback was real.
And he was named the NFL Comeback Player of the Year.
A storybook ending, right?
It seemed like he was back on top.
Back in his prime. But then,
But then what?
the shocker.
Just 2 weeks before the start of the 2019 season,
Right before the season was about to start,
Andrew Luck announced his retirement
he retired.
from the NFL
Just like that.
at only 29 years old.
But he was at the peak of his career.
It was a decision that sent shockwaves through the entire sports world.
I can imagine nobody saw it coming.
No one.
It was a move that defied all expectations.
It really made everyone rethink, what it means to be successful in a profession.
A profession where players often sacrifice their well-being for the sake of the game.
Exactly. He was walking away from it all.
Walking away from fame, fortune, everything.
And it really made people pause
Made them ask some tough questions.
about what really matters.
It was a powerful statement about the importance of personal happiness and well-being.
Yeah, and you know what? The more I learn about Andrew Luck,
The more you what?
the more I realize how much more there is to uncover.
There's a lot beneath the surface.
There's this depth to him that goes far beyond his accomplishments on the field.
He's a complex and fascinating individual.
And we've only just scratched the surface of his incredible journey.
We've got a lot more to explore.
So up next,
What's next?
we'll explore his love for books,
The librarian quarterback.
his architectural design background,
That's right, he's a man of many talents.
and that very curious preference for a flip phone.
In the age of smartphones, that's a real head-scratcher.
Stay tuned,
Can't wait.
because there's so much more to come.
Looking forward to it.
It's amazing to think about how Andrew Luck balanced being this top-tier athlete
Yeah,
with, these intellectual pursuits.
it's not something you see every day.
This is a guy who led the Colts to victory on Sundays.
Yeah.
And then spent his downtime discussing historical fiction with his teammates.
He was known for his love of books, that's for sure.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely a unique personality in the NFL.
So he was nicknamed
Yeah,
the Colts' very own librarian
I love that nickname.
because he was constantly reading and recommending books to everyone.
He was like a walking book club.
Okay, so what kind of books was he into?
Well, during his time with the Colts, he mentioned that his favorite book was Papillon
Papillon. Okay.
by Henri Charrière.
And that is
It's a true story about a man's escape from a penal colony.
intense.
Pretty intense stuff.
Yeah, not your typical beach read.
Definitely not light reading.
What do you make of that choice?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here's this guy who's living this life filled with pressure and scrutiny.
Right.
And he finds solace in a story about resilience and determination.
Wow.
And the will to survive against all odds.
It makes you wonder if he saw parallels
Yeah.
between the protagonist's journey and his own experiences in the NFL.
It's possible maybe he was drawn to stories of overcoming adversity.
That's a great point. It shows a depth of thought that goes beyond just reading for entertainment.
Right, he was looking for something deeper.
He was clearly seeking out stories that resonated with him on a personal level.
He was engaging with the material, not just passively consuming it.
And it wasn't just Papillon. Right?
Nope, he had a wide range of interests.
What else did he like?
Well, he was also a big fan of historical fiction,
Oh, really? What authors?
especially the novels of Bernard Cornwell,
Okay.
who writes these incredibly detailed and action-packed stories set during the Napoleonic Wars.
Oh, wow. So he was basically leading these two lives.
Two very different worlds.
The star quarterback on the field
Uh-huh.
and the history buff immersed in these epic tales.
He was able to compartmentalize, to find balance in his life.
Yeah, it speaks to his ability to kind of shift gears.
He wasn't just an athlete, he was an intellectual with a thirst for knowledge.
It's really inspiring
It is.
because it shows that you don't have to fit into this box.
Break the mold
You can be a top-tier athlete and a bookworm.
and excel at both.
Exactly.
And it challenges our assumptions about what it means to be a successful athlete.
Right. Andrew Luck's story shows that success isn't just about,
It's not all about physical prowess and competitive drive.
there's more to it.
It's also about intellectual curiosity, personal growth.
Pursuing those passions that bring you joy and fulfillment.
Finding that balance.
Speaking of finding joy and fulfillment,
Yeah.
let's talk about another important chapter in his life.
Right.
His marriage to Nicole Pationek
A big step.
and the birth of their daughter Lucy.
Family is a huge part of who he is.
It's clear that family is like a top priority for Andrew Luck.
Absolutely.
He even cited his desire to prioritize his marriage
Yeah.
as one of the factors in his decision to retire from the NFL.
It played a role, for sure.
Yeah, remember in his retirement announcement,
That was an emotional moment.
he really emphasized that.
What did he say?
He said, and I'm paraphrasing here,
Okay.
that the constant cycle of injuries and rehab,
It takes a toll.
the pressure to perform, the demands of the game,
It's a grind.
it had all taken the joy out of football for him,
He lost that passion.
and he realized that he was sacrificing
Sacrificing what?
his personal happiness and well-being.
Right. For a career that was ultimately unsustainable.
He said something along the lines of,
Okay.
I haven't been able to live the life I want to live.
Powerful statement.
It really struck a chord with a lot of people,
I bet it did.
especially those who felt trapped in their own careers.
Or were struggling to find that work-life balance.
His decision to prioritize his family over his career, it was a big decision.
Was a powerful statement.
It made people reevaluate their own priorities.
And consider what truly mattered to them.
What does it all mean?
And it seems like he's found a new kind of fulfillment in fatherhood.
That's great to hear.
There are pictures of him happily pushing a stroller, spending quality time with his family.
A simpler life.
It's like a beautiful image of contentment.
He's traded the roar of the stadium for the quiet moments of family life.
It's a reminder that success can take many forms.
It's not always about trophies and accolades.
Sometimes it's about finding peace and happiness in the simple things.
Well, it's everyday moments.
Okay, so we've talked about his international childhood, his record-breaking college career at Stanford,
He was a star.
his impressive but ultimately shortened NFL journey,
Cut short by injuries.
his post-retirement pursuits,
Always exploring.
his love for books,
The librarian quarterback.
and through it all,
what?
this theme of genuineness keeps emerging.
He's always been true to himself. He's not afraid to be himself, to embrace his intellectual side,
He's not afraid to be different.
to make choices that defy expectations.
He marches to the beat of his own drum.
And that brings us back to
She...
that fascinating tidbit about him using a flip phone.
The flip phone, I almost forgot about that.
It's almost unheard of for someone his age.
Especially someone who is so deeply embedded in the world of professional sports.
It's so countercultural,
It is, in this age of smartphones and social media.
where everyone is constantly connected.
Glued to their screens,
He chooses to disconnect.
to opt out of the digital noise.
What do you think that says about him?
I think it shows a remarkable level of self-awareness.
How so?
He recognizes the potential downsides of technology.
But distractions.
The way it can consume our attention and distract us from what truly matters.
It's almost like a form of rebellion against the pressure to be constantly available and plugged in.
Yeah, he's setting boundaries, creating space for himself to think.
To reflect, to be present in the moment.
A powerful message in a world that's increasingly obsessed with speed and connectivity.
Let's not forget,
What's that?
Andrew Luck actually earned a degree in architectural design from Stanford.
That's right, he's got a creative side.
It makes you wonder if he ever considered pursuing architecture professionally.
It's possible he's always been drawn to creative and intellectual pursuits.
Maybe someday we'll see him designing stadiums instead of playing in them.
That would be an interesting twist.
But for now, it seems like he's content
Content with what?
with his life away from the spotlight,
Living a quieter life,
focusing on family, education.
and maybe indulging in a good book or two.
It's amazing to think about how Andrew Luck's story challenges our traditional notions of success.
He really does defy expectations.
He walked away from a lucrative and high-profile career
You could have had it all.
to pursue a more fulfilling life on his own terms.
He chose his own path.
It's a bold move
It is.
that forces us to re-examine our own definitions of success and happiness.
What does it all mean?
He's a reminder that it's okay to prioritize well-being,
To take care of yourself.
to follow your passions, and to define success for yourself.
Just let society define it for you.
He's also a reminder that there's a whole world outside the spotlight.
A world beyond fame and fortune.
A world where you can pursue intellectual growth, nurture your relationship.
Then find joy in the simple things.
He's a true inspiration.
He really is.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground
We have.
in this deep dive.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle.
What's that?
Andrew recently took on a new role
Oh, really?
that has people talking.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What's he up to now?
He's gone back to his roots, so to speak.
Oh, really?
Stay tuned for part 3 to find out what he's up to now.
We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the life of Andrew Luck.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has, and I'm excited to find out what he's doing now.
All right, so are you ready for this?
Yeah, and me with it.
Andrew Luck has returned to Stanford.
Okay, no surprise there.
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously loves Stanford.
Yeah. But this time he's not the star quarterback.
Okay,
He's taken on the role of general manager.
general manager. Wow, that's a big job.
It is, especially at a prestigious program like Stanford.
Oh, he's running the whole show now.
He's calling the shots, building the team.
What do you think drew him back to this world?
Well, he clearly has a deep connection to Stanford.
Yeah, from his time as both a student and a player.
Maybe he sees this as a way to give back to the program that helped shape him.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Or maybe he's looking for a new challenge.
It's gotta be a challenge.
It's a chance to apply his unique perspective and experience to something new.
I mean, how many general managers have actually played the game?
At the highest level.
Exactly. He understands the pressures those players face,
Both on and off the field.
and he can relate to them in a way that someone who's only ever been on the management side can't.
He's been in their shoes.
It's also interesting to think about
Yeah.
how his architectural design background might inform his approach to building a successful program.
Oh, that's a great point.
I mean, architecture is all about
Strategic planning, seeing the big picture
understanding how all the individual elements fit together,
to create a cohesive whole.
and those skills could definitely translate to managing a football team.
Absolutely.
He's not just assembling a roster,
It's more than that.
he's designing a system for success.
Just like an architect designs a building.
And I'm really curious to see how his tenure as general manager plays out.
Me too. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
It's a whole new chapter in the Andrew Luck saga,
A new challenge, a new legacy.
and it has the potential to be just as impactful as his playing career.
I think he's up for the challenge.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I keep coming back to the idea that Andrew Luck's story.
It's about more than just football.
Yeah, exactly. It's about following your own path, defying expectations.
Finding fulfillment on your own terms.
He's a reminder that success isn't this one-size-fits-all concept.
You don't have to follow the traditional path.
It's not just about winning championships or earning accolades.
It's about finding what truly matters to you.
It's about pursuing your passions, prioritizing your well-being,
And staying true to yourself.
even when it means making unconventional choices.
Sometimes you have to zig when everyone else zags.
He walked away from a life of fame and fortune
You could have had it all.
to focus on the things that truly matter to him.
Family, education, personal growth.
And in doing so, he sparked this conversation
About what's really important.
about the pressures athletes face, the importance of mental health.
And the right to define success on your own terms.
His story has resonated with so many people
Athletes and non-athletes alike.
because it speaks to this universal desire.
To live a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling.
He's shown us that it's okay to step off the beaten path,
To forge your own way.
to prioritize your own happiness above external expectations.
He's an inspiration.
He really is.
To anyone who's ever felt pressured to conform.
Or who's struggling to find their own definition of success.
He's a reminder that it's okay to be different.
So as we conclude this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought.
What's that?
What does a successful life look like to you?
That's a great question.
What are your passions, your values, your non-negotiables?
The things that really matter.
Andrew Luck found his answers, and in doing so, he's inspired countless others to seek their own.
To find their own path.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of Andrew Luck.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking your own definition of a life well lived.